Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. If everybody's settled in, we will begin our program. Welcome to Modernism Week Camp. We're going to have a conversation with Hugh Kaptur. Please welcome Gary Johns in order to moderate.
I thought we had talked about the lights, guys.
What do they want to show you?
Ladies and gentlemen, just bear with us.
That's better.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you all for coming. My name is Gary Johns. I'm on the board of Modernism Week, and I'm very honored today to have
Can't hear.
Hi, Gary. You might want to use this.
Let's do a test on Hugh.
Hello. Hello.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Should I retest?
Hooray for me.
Should I retest? Am I on?
They said to make him laugh.
Something wrong? Test?
Yay.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gary Johns, and I'm on the board of Modernism Week. And it is indeed my honor today to have a casual conversation with Mr. Hugh Kaptur. I would like to tell you that we are unrehearsed. This is live. And we planned it that way so that there would be some spontaneity for you. So I hope you will enjoy, and we'll begin. All right, so we start with Mr. Kaptur has had a very, very long career, beginning in 1956 here in the Palm Springs area. But Hugh was born and raised in the Detroit, Michigan area. There are a lot of details here on the screen of Hugh's illustrious career, his associations with different architectural firms here in the Palm Springs area. But I want to bring your attention to his community service here in Palm Springs. He was on the Architectural Advisory Committee for 8 years and on the Planning Commission for 10 years. It is 18 years of community service. And Hugh, when you were sitting on these very important review boards here in the city, what was some of your proudest accomplishments being on those boards?
Oh, wow. There's a lot of projects that were submitted during that time. And back then, the projects weren't very sophisticated. They were, so it was, a lot of projects got turned down. But I think one of the most important ones was a project that came before us that was going to develop the Indian canyons. And when I looked at that project, there were 3-story condominiums that were right in the foyers to Murray Canyon and Andres Canyon, and there was going to be a golf course. And when I saw that, I just couldn't believe that those Indian canyons could be destroyed. So I contacted Frank Bogert, who was mayor, and talked to him about it. And he felt that the Indians wanted it, but I had talked with Richard Milanovich prior to that, and he was not for it. So I went back to Richard, and we discussed it, and I said, Richard, if you don't show up for this council meeting, this project's going to be approved, and those canyons are going to be destroyed forever, you know. And he said, well, Hugh, between a rock and a hard spot. I support the Indians. I'm their
Chairman.
I'm in charge of their well-being, and yet, he said, for my forefathers and that, I would hate to see this happen. So I said, well, Richard, if you don't come to it, it's going to be approved. So anyway, that evening at the city council, I got up and spoke against it and pointed out the reasons. And I looked in the back of the room, and here comes Richard. So Richard came up and he started speaking and about how his forefathers hunted in the area, and he actually had tears in his eyes. And the council, particularly Mayor Bogart, who thought the Indians were for it, he went, oh boy, couldn't believe it. So they postponed it. And then the start of some of the environmental groups at the time got on board, and then the project later was turned down. And the Indian Canyons are there today partly because of myself and Richard Milanovich.
Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. And for members of the audience who aren't familiar with the canyons that we're speaking about, South Palm Springs, a lot of that area is Indian reservations, Murray Canyon, Andreas Canyon. So if you're new to town, it's a beautiful area to explore just south of our downtown area here. So Hugh, to add to this impressive resume, a couple of years ago, you were contacted by This and That Films to do a film on your life, your contribution to Palm Springs. And the video was very, very successful. I think this is the opening shot of you driving around Palm Springs into the many neighborhoods and past the many buildings that you designed. Back then, when the film was made, Palm Springs Ranch Club Estates, which was a little-known neighborhood of mid-century homes that you had developed up on the north end, came back into being. They started being recognized again. And here are a couple of those designs. They're in the North Palm Springs area, and this is one of my particular favorites. And Hugh, during the launch of this film, there was a home tour of the area. There's a home tour this year, again, of this area. And you were an honored guest, and one of the guests asked you to sign their house. Would you tell us about that?
Yes, I've signed renderings and things, but never before have I signed a house. We signed one of, I think it was this house.
I think it was too.
Yeah.
Where?
Thank you.
I live right behind it. Where?
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We're going to work alone up here. Hugh, where did you sign the house? Do you recall where you signed the house?
It was in the front hall closet. I'm a closet architect.
Following the making of the film, the City of Palm Springs, the Board of Modernism Week, inducted you into the Palm Springs Walk of Stars, which, ladies and gentlemen, is just across the street in front of the Architecture and Design Museum. And the weekend's festivities included a multifaceted tour of the Hugh Kaptur designed properties and buildings in the Palm Springs area. And this points out a number of them here, and we'll talk about almost all of these in the next few minutes. And when I mentioned the Ranch Club, thank you, Hugh. The Ranch, I told you it was unrehearsed. Ranch Club Estates is right up there in that area. And the dedication ceremony was quite lovely. Hugh accepted with great humility. And here is a wonderful photo of Hugh with his lovely wife, Helen. And for the audience members, Helen was a celebrity in her own right. In 1970, this is Helen, I'm sorry, folks. This is Helen here, a very, very close friend of Nelda Linsk, who owned the Richard Neutra designed Kaufman House here. And this is the actress Lita Baron. Many of you are probably familiar with this photograph, photographed in 1970 by the society photographer Slim Aarons. So we lost Helen a year ago. So. Now this year, continuing to add to your resume, you are featured in an important new book that Modernism Week developed called The Desert Modernist. And here you are, photographed in front of the golf course clubhouse, and we're going to come to this in just a minute. And in the pages of this book now, well, here, I'll stop here. This is the clubhouse that you were photographed in. And I think that you were telling me an interesting story about why you designed the roof line of this building the way that you did.
Well, this particular site was right in the flight path of the Palm Springs Airport. In the prevailing winds coming from the north, the flight path basically most of the time flies right over this area, and I felt it was important that the people coming in, flying into Palm Springs would look down on a building where they didn't see a bunch of air conditioning units and mechanical equipment. So the roof was treated just as important as the elevation.
Well, and we're very thankful for that because, again, as many of you will know, President Obama just flew in over this roof line, as did the Sultan of Brunei, the President of Indonesia, the President of the Philippines, the President of, I believe,
China.
China. Well, no, China isn't involved in. There's a huge summit this week up at Sunnylands. So all of those important dignitaries flew over this roof line, and this building is pretty much intact, folks. It's quite wonderful.
Well, there's been a mustache that was painted
Well,
on the
let's come back
front.
to that. So, Hugh, tell us about that mustache, if you will.
Well, it's a structure that was with some canvas that was put right in front of the front entrance, and for a city-owned building to allow that to happen, it's really disturbing, and hopefully one of these days it'll be taken down.
Right. So, folks, what's interesting about that is this entrance was added to this building to the idea was to make it more important, as if the building wasn't important enough. But the city, because it is a city-owned building, had the good foresight to not attach this appendage or this mustache to the building. So it's freestanding in front of the building, so it hasn't altered or damaged the building at all, and that's the good news when it comes to architectural preservation. But you can drive out there. This is on Golf Club Drive, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
in fact, you should have maybe had a picture of before and after.
Maybe I should have. Okay. So this is one of the properties featured in the building, or excuse me, in the book, and this really speaks to the sculptural quality of your work, doesn't it?
I guess so.
This is the Burgess residence,
Yes.
also known as Bougainvillea, 1958. This is up on Palisades Drive. And this is the Siva residence, also up on Palisades Drive. These are early 50s works up on the mountainside.
Well, it was actually the late 50s, 57, 58, 59 in there.
Wonderful.
Even maybe 60.
And the current owners of this home, I saw them slip in, so we're happy to see you here today. Thank you for coming.
Liz and Mark Ostich
Yes.
are the present owners, lovely couple.
And here's a photograph of the house. It is quite stunning, ladies and gentlemen. It sits very high up on the hill. Panorama Drive is above the Art Museum, and the views from there are quite stunning, as you can imagine. And Hugh designed the home to really fit there in the landscape. And again, adding to your resume, this building in particular is of very, very big importance in the past year. This is Tockwitz Plaza. Here we have, of course, a rendering of it here at the top of the screen, and then an actual photograph of it here. Hugh, tell us about Tockwitz Plaza and what role that played in your life.
Well, this is actually Tockwitz Plaza 2. Tockwitz Plaza 1 was designed, I was a part owner, and of course had a lot of freedom. The other owners were Vespes and Krieger, a legal firm, and John Sanborn, a civil engine firm. And it because it was in a business zone, the height limit was 30 feet. So I was able to design a single-story building, but give it some height to kind of blend in with the background of the San Jacinto Mountains. So it was a special project to me because of the latitude that I had in designing it. This was Tockwitz Plaza 1.
Folks, it's a campus of buildings. Hugh is probably the only individual that knows them as 1 and 2. The general public just understands them as Tockwitz Plaza as a collection. And here's a stunning photograph of them as well. Sharp angles. In early 2015, the preservation community came together, in particular the nonprofit Palm Springs Preservation Foundation, to nominate the buildings as a Class 1 historic site in the city. The City of Palm Springs' highest architectural recognition and preservation of a structure is the Class 1 designation. So the Preservation Foundation came together to nominate the buildings for Class 1 because they were being threatened with demolition for the development of a big high-rise mixed-use development. So it was a contentious year. This went back and forth, daily headlines, and this is just a sample of the headlines over the year of the developer strongly arguing for the demolition of the buildings, the preservation community strongly advocating for the preservation of the building. And Hugh, you played a very active role. You went to the Architectural Advisory Committee, the Planning Commission, the City Council on a number of occasions.
Yes, yes, I certainly didn't want to see it torn down. You know, if it was for a project that would have conformed to the zoning, it would have been one thing, but the project that was being proposed didn't comply with the zoning ordinance, the height limits, the density. It didn't comply with anything, and yet the city was going to approve it.
And I think one of the arguments was that it could be adaptively reused, that the developer could indeed still build his new building adjacent to and perhaps include these wonderful buildings. But all's well that ends well. And in late 2015, the preservation community won out. It will speak to the importance of elections We had a very big election here in November. Hugh, did you want to say something?
Well, thank goodness for the recent
Newly elected
election where we elected a new mayor and 2 new council people who were very considerate of historic sites. And so the feeling of the council switched from tearing down historical sites to preserving them. And this picture here, I'm shaking hands with the owner, and he has agreed to restore them.
This sign just went up the other day. Hugh has been engaged to work on the restoration of the project with a local preservation architect. So hopefully in the not too distant future, we will see a restored Toppers Plaza. Hugh, your career though, you moved to Palm Springs in 1956. What was Palm Springs like then?
Oh, well, Palm Springs was truly a village. During the summer, you could roll a bowling ball down Pond Canyon. It wouldn't hit a parked car. But anyway, it was quite nice. And it's developed nicely. I have some concerns a little bit about the new downtown redevelopment. The buildings being a little, I think, a little bit more than a little bit close to Pond Canyon, but unfortunately it is what it is. And this project here was my first project. I was in the Marine Corps, and I designed this for my in-laws in San Clemente. They were in real estate.
You were working early in steel. A lot of your roof lines and a lot of your structures required steel construction?
Yes, this is the Impala Lodge, which has now been renamed
Triangle Inn?
Triangle Inn, I guess. This was the original rendering that I did of it.
Where's it located?
It's in the Warm Sands area. It's a resort now. And again, here's a wonderful steel beam that really allowed for you to gain that kind of height and those kinds of angles.
This building, of course, a lot of landscaping is overgrown and pretty much hides it from view now.
Here it is currently. It's still a very impressive building, but as Hugh mentioned, the landscaping has really been allowed to obscure a lot of the architectural detail of the building. And this was a fun one. This was, what do we call this? I forget it, I can't see it from here.
Bermuda Dunes.
Yes, the inn at Bermuda Dunes.
A motel project I did there, and this was the front entrance to it. It since has been destroyed. I don't know if you have a picture.
I don't. I thought that was too painful. Here's some beautiful detail up here. All steel structure. Folks, there is a after picture, but it is painful to see something this expressive of the mid-century period that in the late 1980s was, in the term I like to use, is Santa Fe'd. It was turned into a Santa Fe, aside from being an architect, a very talented artist. These are all renderings that you do or did. I believe that some of these were for the firm of Wexford Harrison. It was one of your first jobs.
Well, when I first came to Palm Springs, I resigned from General Motors Styling and moved here in 1956. And I took a job with Wexler and Harrison. And I was with them for 6 months, and we entered a recession, and I was laid off, and so that's when I started my career out of my garage. And these were pretty much all my projects, these renderings. This was a home I was doing in Whittier, California.
And folks, of course, recognizing the date of these drawings, this is not AutoCAD. This is all done by hand,
Yeah.
with a pencil. And
Yeah, we never knew about AutoCAD.
Right, we're going to get to that in just a second. So here's a very expressive one that I really like a lot.
This was also for San Clemente.
And Hugh was, whether by choice or by accident, oftentimes included these very stylized figures and always a car. And I think that probably comes from your career at GM.
GM Styling,
Yeah.
could be.
This is a terrific one.
This is one I did for Wexler and Harrison for the school district. They were a metal building that Don Wexler had designed.
Here's another great one. Of course, elevations were very important to sell a project to a client, as would be the floor plan. Where was the kitchen going to be in the house? And did you articulate the floor plans very much to the client's liking, or did they accept pretty much what you gave them?
No, and our schematic drawings always included a rendered floor plan and elevation. This was a home that was built in El Dorado Country Club.
In 2015, I guess last year, the Modernism Week was given access to your archives, and we chose a couple of Hugh's prints to reproduce. Here, a terrific version of his artwork. Another really stunning version. Since this time, Hugh has given his complete archives to the Palm Springs Art Museum, but we got early access to these. Now, what I will draw your attention to is, again, some of this detail. Here we see these extremely well stylized figures, and there's always usually a car involved. And Hugh, how long would it take you to make these drawings, to render these?
Oh, 15 minutes. Oh, I don't know, a half a day or so, 4 or 5 hours.
And they were done in pencil?
Yes.
Yeah. And if you made a mistake?
Well, we had erasers back then.
Well, and folks, I did enlarge this in particular to really so that you could see the detail that went into giving the mountains some feeling, and this terrific shadow detail here. For someone who can't draw a straight line, this is really impressive to me. Very, very well known for some of your cliff dwellings. I pointed out 2 of them earlier, the Siva residence and the Bougainvillea. Here we have the Lever residence here on the end. We're going to talk about that. The Griffing Steve McQueen residence, and then, of course, the well-known William Holden residence, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But here's that shot of the hillside showing Bougainvillea here, the Siva residence here, and what many of you are familiar with is Frey House 2 here at the top of the hill. These are practically visible right here from camp, just looking northwest of here, and you can see these 3 homes. This is the Lever residence. This was one of the first homes that you designed up on the mountainside.
Yes. Mhm.
It no longer exists, but let's talk about it for a few minutes. Very expressive, folks. I hope that you can see how it just, if you didn't look for it, you might not see it. It fit into the mountain that well. Strikingly cantilevered. Balcony across the front, and a lot of steel structure went into it. This is one of my favorites. There is a quote here. It says, most connectors were bolted, and according to the designer,
Yes, well.
the carpenters never drove a nail for 5 weeks.
Oh, I don't remember the exact time. I mean, this goes back almost 60 years ago. But it was basically bolted together, the structure. It was a post and beam, and you can see the bolts.
There was another quote here, I don't know whether it's here, but it was that Bethlehem Steel loves Hugh Kaptur.
Well, at the time, we did use a lot of steel, and Bethlehem Steel was supplying the material.
Some of your really good expressive buildings that still exist today. Another wonderfully romanticized, in my opinion, rendering of the Casablanca. I'm going to come to that in just a second. The Casablanca Hotel. Here was a full-page ad in Palm Springs Life magazine heralding the completion of the Casablanca Hotel. And folks, this is not too far from here. This is just about a quarter of a mile down Palm Canyon Drive. It is renamed today the Movieland Hotel, I think it is. Musicland, thank you very much, a local in the audience. And Hugh, we talked about this being, again, that sculptural element, organic. You were drawing from, I think the term was an indigenous architecture?
Well, I always felt for desert architecture, the Pueblo style was more conducive to our weather, rather than the steel glass boxes. So I always kind of leaned towards the Arizona style of architecture. A bit of the Indian, you can see some of my details have got kind of an Indian motif too.
And these big, deep, recessed windows, ladies and gentlemen, this is facing west. So this was all designed to have a view window, but still have it be shaded from direct sun.
Yes.
And ladies and gentlemen, this is intact in very good condition. It's, like I said, just about a quarter of a mile from here. It's on Palm Canyon Drive, just across the street from the department store Steinmart, if you should go looking for it. Tell me about this house.
This is the Seltzer House. It's in Park Andreas, and I designed this for them in I think the early 80s. He's an attorney, retired now, and they still, Mrs. Seltzer unfortunately just passed on a couple of months ago, but Paul still has the house.
And some fire stations. You did a couple of our fire stations here in Palm Springs.
Well, one of my first city jobs was the North End Fire Station.
And folks, that would be this
There,
one.
right. And this is the South End Fire Station,
Not too far from here, folks.
which is in badly need of some maintenance.
Your work took you to Big Bear.
Yes, this is a clubhouse I did up at Big Bear. It was designed in the late 80s, built in the early 90s. And it's at North Shore at Big Bear Lake.
This is
And
it
it's
today.
called the Big Bear North Shore Yacht and RV Park.
And this is how it appears today, folks, so it's beautifully intact as well. But I think you're probably, as far as your residential work goes, most well known for a couple of homes up on Southridge. And Southridge is a neighborhood a little further south, down on Palm Canyon Drive. It is way up on the hillside. It is a gated community. It is where the well-known John Lautner Bob Hope House is, and also the John Lautner designed Arthur Elrod House. But it's Hugh's work for this gentleman. Tell us about meeting Bill Holden.
Well, Bill Holden was probably one of my best clients. He was a very interesting man. He loved to tell stories, and he called the office one day to set up an appointment to meet him at his home in Deepwell. And of course, when I went to the home, and I was pretty nervous, meeting Bill Holden. He was my superstar, and I rang the doorbell, and Bill came to the door, and he said, "Oh, come on in, Hugh." He says, "I'm on the phone. I'll be with you in just a minute." And he talked like he knew me forever. He was so friendly, and immediately I felt relaxed, and we became very good friends. He went sailing on my boat in San Diego with me, and he was just a wonderful, wonderful gentleman.
And this home, he collaborated with you on the design, yes?
Say
He
again?
had some input on the design of the house?
Well, the walls were already there. A previous owner had a home designed by a local architect, and when the retaining walls were all installed, it ate up her whole budget, and she became very discouraged and sold the property or put it up for sale. And Bill Holden purchased the property, so I already had a pad that was already there, and we designed this house for Bill.
And Hugh, he had a special request. He asked you for something in this house, and he asked you to include it.
Well, a couple things he did. One, he wanted to sit in his pool on one side and have the water flow right off the edge, right into the sky, because it's up in the mountain, So we developed a pool that today is, they're done now quite a bit. They're known as infinity pools, and but I believe this was the first one that was ever done. The other thing, we excavated behind the existing wall. I mentioned to Bill, we could excavate and put a room down there, and Bill said, "God, Hugh," he said, "I always wanted a secret room where I could go and hide." And so we did, and it became his museum, where he had a lot of his artwork that he collected from his trips all over the world.
Hugh, Bill Holden was well known for his trips to Africa, and he
Yes.
brought home something from Africa that he asked you to include in the design of the house.
Well,
The doors.
Well, I was actually giving kind of an African theme to it, But Bill wanted a more clean, contemporary look, so we went to a cleaner look. At the other end, we did design a palapa that was never built, I have some drawings on it.
But weren't there a set of African carved doors?
Oh yes. They were from Zanzibar doors. They were carved doors, and he thought he'd like to have them outside as a gate entering his compound. And I said, Bill, they're not going to last very long in this climate. So we we placed them as an entrance into his office den. And I don't know if you have a picture of that.
I don't.
Oh, but we surrounded them in glass so that the doors really stood out as a piece of art.
They're very beautiful. Yeah. And this house, this is the Griffing House that is today much more well known as the Steve McQueen House.
Yes, it was originally designed for Thomas Griffing, who bought a home up at South Ridge, and it was originally designed to be a spec house, and it was sold. I don't remember the gentleman's name, but he was a song producer from Hollywood that bought the house.
And Hugh, this house, there is some steel here?
That's all steel,
Yeah.
yes.
And to accomplish that cantilever, I believe you had to go quite into the bedrock there too.
Oh yes, it was steel and poured concrete.
A little bit of the finished product there. This is the Steve McQueen house today, in very, very good condition, well cared for by the current owner. And I just received these the other day. These are iPhone photos of the Holden house today. I know they're not so good, but they are iPhone photos. And the current owners, much to Hugh's pleasure, have done a beautiful restoration of the
Yes.
property.
Mhm.
There it is there. High above the valley floor. And as we come back forward, as your career continues today, Kaptur Court is under construction right now up off of Vista Chino, and there are 3 homes as a part of Kaptur Court. These were the 3 elevations, and did I understand you saying that they opted to just go with one design?
Yes, the top design. The developer decided to build 3 of those rather than have
One each.
different elevations. So.
They're good looking. They're quite striking, and I think they're all coming on the market at $1 million plus, aren't they?
Yeah, I think around $1.3 million in there, and the model is almost complete. I drove by it yesterday, and I think it may be open for viewing here during Modernism Week.
And it must feel good to have this little mini neighborhood, if you will, of 3 houses called Kaptur Court.
Oh, I don't know.
He's humble, if nothing.
It's,
And there's another wonderful rendering of the homes. And continuing on, you haven't rested yet. You're still going strong. This is a home that you are designing for Liz and Mark Osteucher, who were here in the audience. We pointed out their house earlier, the Siva residence. When we talked earlier about the Lever residence, one of Hugh's first houses up on the mountainside that is now long gone, this home is being designed for that site. Here's a quick rendering of it.
well, that's just a drawing. That's not a rendered.
Oh, It's a drawing.
You did have a picture.
I have it. Here we
okay.
go. Here. But here's a model of it, folks, and it's going to be really dramatic.
It's really a two-bedroom casitas that will add a couple bedrooms to their existing house, the Siva house.
And there's that. Now, is this a rendering?
Yeah, well, this is at least a colored elevation.
All right. And I think that at this point in the development of this property, there's a lot of geological studies going on and some engineering.
Yes, of course it's built, the site is rocky and gravel, and so we're doing some footing designs. We've got tests, soils test reports in now, and we're moving forward with that.
Hugh, is it more challenging to build a hillside home in 2016 than it was in 1956?
Oh yes, a lot more regulations now. In fact, we're really overburdened with regulations. I feel sorry for the young architects that have to work with all these regulations that they're faced with today.
Ladies and gentlemen, this program the idea began in 2010. The late Patrick McGrew, I'll say, rediscovered Mr. Kaptur back in 08, 09, and started recognizing his contribution and the work that he did here in the desert area. And he came up with the legacy of Hugh Kaptur, and this comes back to the year 2010. And at that time, it was Patrick's fervent wish that Hugh's work would become recognized. And in 2010, he hoped that some of Hugh's work would become designated as Class 1 historic sites. And as we saw earlier, the Talkers Plaza has now done that. So thank you, Patrick McGrew. Folks, we have a few minutes. If you have any questions of Hugh, I think he'd be willing to entertain some questions. Right over here, please.
Hugh, I always meant to ask you, if the design of the clubhouse at the golf course was consciously influenced by the design of the USS Arizona Memorial in Pearl Harbor.
People have claimed that, but no, it was not my inspiration.
Anyone else? Oh, yes, sir. Please.
Do you live in a house that you designed, or do you still have visions of designing the newest Kaptur house?
Oh, I can't afford one of my houses. Recently, with the passing of my wife, we sold our home in Park Andreas, and I bought a condo in Canyon Heights, and so I downsized, and I have a nice spot, and my condo opens right into the mountain, so I'm very, very happy there.
Anyone else? Yes, sir. Please.
I was just over at the convention center where they have all these classic cars, 50s, 60s, 70s. You were at General Motors. Was there any particular car that you were involved with designing?
No, I actually worked in the exhibit design department.
Architects here that were probably looking at the same project that you got.
I don't know how to answer that, frankly.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Well, I
Please.
can appreciate you not remembering because of why I do, but that's beside the point. What is the first thing that you would remember as far as those homes are concerned that would stand out in your mind, that was a turning point?
Of my career, oh,
Of that era, where the first time you designed something that was...
well, first of all, you have to realize I was, a young man. When I came here, I was like 24 years old. Had a pregnant wife, one child, and when I got laid off from Wexler and Harrison, the pressure was certainly put on me because I just, resigned from a secure job at General Motors, and so I just started in my garage and started working, going to the other architects. Howard Lapham at the time. I did a lot of renderings for him, and Wexler and Harrison. Bob Chambers I did one for, and then builders. My name started getting out, and I start doing homes for builders. I did some homes down in Palm Desert for a builder by the name of Ross Patton, and then the Ranch Club contacted me, and I did homes for track homes for the Ranch Club, and so it was enough to put food on the table. In fact, I thought at the time, as soon as the economy came back, I'd go back to work for a local architect, but then I start making more money than I would have with a local architect, so I just continued. So and I was very fortunate, and with the grace of God and the help of a lot of friends, that I was able to develop a good practice, and I did well with it. So.
All right. Well, Hugh, thank you very much, ladies. Ladies and gentlemen, Hugh is going to still be present over in the main hall here. You could purchase a book. There's some renderings for you, and Hugh will be happy to answer some more questions and perhaps sign your books for you if you like. Thank you all very much for coming.
Thank you.